and welcome. You're watching NewsX World. I'm Megha Sharma, and let's take a look at the big stories of the hour. 31-year-old conservative activist and influential Trump ally Charlie Kirk has died after being shot at a campus event in Utah. The US president shared a grief video calling it a dark moment for America. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has said that the country will be very hesitant about investing in the United States following a massive immigration raid at a Hyundai plant in the state of Georgia last week. A South Korean chartered plane has arrived in Atlanta to repatriate the detained immigrants. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has slammed Western and global leaders for what he calls lack of action over Russia's intrusion of Polish airspace with drones. At least 3 drones were shot down by Polish and other 2 aircraft in Poland's airspace during yesterday's attacks on Kyiv. President Donald Trump has held a heated call with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, conveying deep frustration at being blindsided by Israel's strike on Hamas representatives in Qatar, even as Israel faces global condemnation for its military strikes. There is still no consensus on who will be the interim leader in the violence-hit Nepal, even as the death toll in this week's violent protest reaches 30. The Nepal army has taken charge of security with the military personnel deployed across the capital. France's new Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu's first day in office was marked by widespread street protests against President Emmanuel Macron, with demonstrators clashing with the police. The deployment of 80,000 police officers broke barricades and dragged hundreds of protesters into custody, even as flashpoints multiplied. Big story of the hour. Charlie Kirk, a conservative activist who's a prominent ally of US President Donald Trump and the founder of Turning Point USA, has been shot dead while speaking at Utah Valley University. The 31-year-old was hit once in the neck while addressing a crowd of about 3,000 students. He was rushed to the hospital but died shortly after. Authorities say the shot came from a rooftop overlooking the campus courtyard in what is being described as a targeted attack. Hundreds of students fled the scene in panic, while Kirk's wife and children were present at the event. Authorities say that 2 people were arrested earlier and have no current ties to the shooting. A door-to-door manhunt is now underway, with the suspect still at large. Security at the event included both university officers and Kirk's private detail, but the gunman managed to strike from above. The White House flag has been lowered to half-mast to honor the conservative activist. President Trump has announced that all flags nationwide will remain at half-mast until Sunday evening. On Capitol Hill, members of the House of Representatives also observed a moment of silence in his memory. Daniel Boardman is on the telecast with me. Daniel, such an unfortunate, shocking event that has unfolded overnight. And the big question, who could have targeted Charlie, the very close ally and loyalist of President Trump, who has been touted for engaging the youth of United States of America to vote for President Trump in the elections that led to the win of the Republican candidate, who is now at this point of time leading the charge of the world's biggest economy.
Yeah, so I don't want to speculate on, who could have did this. There's many people who could have been enemies of Charlie Kirk. It's obviously a very targeted, deliberate, well thought out attack. And Charlie Kirk's political career predates Donald Trump. He did not start as a MAGA guy. Although he was only 31, from his youth, he was always a very effective communicator, and he really pioneered the sort of conservative youth movement in the West. He would go to high schools, he'd go to universities. He's most famous for just being at universities, sitting there at campuses and letting the students, come and debate him and trying to change their minds. So it's a very, very tragic event, primarily for his wife and children, it's horrible that they were there. But this is, in my view, watching this when I saw it, this is the most damaging and worst political assassination in the U.S. since Kennedy. Because it's one thing to kill a politician, and politicians have been shot recently in the U.S. and when we had gone through that. But Charlie Kirk, I think the purpose of killing Charlie Kirk is far more chilling. It is a means of silencing ideas, and we all hold ideas. Not all of us run for office. A very select few of us run for office, but this is sort of seen an attack on all of us, and especially those of us who, make our opinions public. It's very, very chilling to see.
It also, one can't help but go back to that assassination attempt on Donald Trump while he was campaigning ahead of the elections in America. There has been a strong comment that has been made by the president. He said that there is a rise in the political targeting of candidates, of politicians, of political leaders, and action will be taken. At this point of time, there continues to be a manhunt on what are the possibilities or indications that two persons who were the suspects who had been taken in by the police, but since then a statement has been released by the police authorities that they are not involved in this assassination plot. There were students who have been speaking, the visuals that played out on our screens just a while ago, and we'll put them out in just a moment. They just fled the scene. There were around 3,000 people, 3,000 students who were attending this event at the Utah campus that was being addressed by Charlie Kirk. What may have been the reason for this targeted killing?
Play the speculation game for radicals would probably be in order of likeliness. One, probably radical leftist who can't distinguish between a moderate conservative and some sort of far-right lunatic. Two would be a jihadist terrorist, and three would be a far-right lunatic. Because again, Charlie Kirk was not part of what you could call the woke right, or the if you follow political discourse in the West among conservatives, there's a bit of a civil war internally brewing between, you would say, the classic conservative base and who are the people who are just outright neo-Nazis and are interested in race wars. So it could have been someone who, because again, Charlie Kirk was pro-Israel, never demeaned Jews, was in favor of, more Reaganite economics. And, this could have been enough to set off an ethno-nationalist who would want to, kill him to blame, the radical left or something. That's a possibility. So, the three, you could get some radical leftist, an Islamist, or some person further to the right who didn't like the fact that he was, likely was a right-wing person, probably because Charlie Kirk is pro-Israel, and the defining part of the now very radical right is anti-Semitism. So those are your candidates. Unlikely that it's just some crazy mentally ill person, because again, this does seem like it was a targeted sniper shot. So there was obviously hours of planning that went into this. So the sort of excuse of, gun violence, mental illness doesn't really stack up here. But again, we'll have to see. The police need to run an investigation. We need to know who got caught. It could always be something else, but so you don't really want to speculate on the motive before you know the shooter. But it is a very, very, very sad day for America.
Right, absolutely. Now, there is, like I said, there is a manhunt that is on. Is there going to be a likelihood that the culprit is going to be nabbed by the police in the next few hours? Of course, it is going to play out, and we'll keep giving you updates. But Daniel, also, if you could look into the profile of Charlie Kirk, he is being touted as somebody who was extremely close to Donald Trump. He had a direct line with Donald Trump. He would visit the White House very often, and he was the one who was also credited with mobilizing the youth of the country in favor of the Republican candidate, and and he worked with Donald Trump Jr. In gathering that momentum and allowing for votes in favor of Donald Trump. He has been working, I think he had been working since the age of 15. He has been a strong candidate, and his presence on social media, as well as in the student community, you know, he would be visiting these universities and colleges and speaking to college students, the youth, and he gained quite the popularity amongst the young population of America. How did he manage to do that in a short career span? He was only 31 years of age.
Yeah, I mean, he was incredibly influential in the American conservative movement. You could argue maybe the most important person, I mean, outside of Donald Trump, in the conservative movement, because you know, for those of us who know politics, this is true in every country, or most countries at least, but the political right often has a lot harder time winning over the youth than the political left, where the youth naturally default to liberalism, you could say. So
Right.
Charlie Kirk was I mean, the rise of Charlie Kirk was, there was this political dynamo on the right who actually managed to reach the youth, and he shook a lot of corners in conservative media, and like, so like in a positive way. I mean, many conservative influencers, you know, tend to be of the boomer cast or Gen X. So to see, you know, sort of at a time a millennial getting through and being able to reach the generations below, and actually having a you know a niche on campus and a way to reach the youth was huge. He was in a sense, a political kingmaker. If Charlie Kirk became president of the United States of America in the next 20 years, it would not shock me, you know, before this. So, yeah, he was incredibly influential and incredibly important to the conservative political ecosystem.
All right, Daniel, thank you very much for joining me. President Trump, in fact, released a video message calling it a dark moment for America and praised Kirk as a patriot. Listen in to what the president said.
My great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others. Radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives.
Utah's governor has labeled it a political assassination and urged Americans to end the hatred.
I've been in touch with President Trump, with FBI Director Kash Patel. We are completely aligned with our state and federal partners as we work through this case. Now, this is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation. And I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination.
Various witnesses to the heinous crime have also been reacting to this shocking news.
So basically, I heard a loud bang, which I figured a shot would be a little bit louder, but I just saw it hit him in the chest, and then all of a sudden just tons of blood gushing right out where his heart is, and then he like fell over and slumped down, and everybody got down and was screaming, and then we all ran.
You heard the one shot. Were there multiple shots or?
Just one shot straight into Charlie Kirk, and that was it. And I think they got him.
Former President Joe Biden and other top U.S. leaders have also joined in condemning the fatal shooting of the conservative activist. Joe Biden called the attack despicable, saying violence has no place in our country. He added that he and First Lady Jill Biden are praying for Kirk's family. Former Vice President Kamala Harris expressed her outrage, stressing that political violence has no place in America and must not escalate. Former President Clinton said he was saddened and angered by the shooting, urging Americans to recommit to passionate but peaceful debate. He added that he and Hillary are keeping Kirk's widow Erica and their children in their prayers. Barack Obama also released a statement condemning the attack as despicable. He said that his wife and he are praying for Kirk's family. Shifting our focus to the other big story, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has issued a stark warning to Qatar, demanding it expel or prosecute Hamas leaders sheltering in Doha.
And I say to Qatar and all nations who harbor terrorists, you either expel them or you bring them to justice. Because if you don't, we will.
Canada said that it is reassessing its relationship with Israel after the airstrike that targeted Hamas leaders in Qatar. Foreign Minister of Canada, Anita Anand, called the attack unacceptable, especially as Qatar works to mediate peace. She confirmed Canada is evaluating next steps, including possible sanctions. Prime Minister Mark Carney called the Doha strike as intolerable expansion of violence and has openly criticized Israel's Gaza policies. The move adds to the growing international backlash over Israel's military actions beyond Gaza. Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev is on the telecast with me. Ambassador Sachdev, it is heartrending to know that there has been another Israeli strike. It has hit Yemen and Qatar at the same time. A few weeks ago, there was a strike on Iran that led to the death of a number of Iranian commanders, and there was destruction of civilian and military infrastructure. A number of Iranian scientists were killed in those military strikes that were supported by America. But the contrast that we see today is the American administration and Donald Trump himself are unhappy about the strike on Qatar. President Trump has held a phone call with Netanyahu since the attack, and he has, pulled Netanyahu up for this, as he says, quote unquote, blindsiding America after it has struck Qatar. How do you think this is going to globally impact the ceasefire and hostage release negotiations between Hamas and Israel?
Thank you. It's an important development, and it raises the ante to the ongoing conflict that's been that's going to have second year completed on October 7 next month. The fighting that you mentioned between Iran and Israel and Israeli attacks on Yemen and earlier attacks on Hezbollah in Lebanon and ongoing war in Gaza were unleashed, as your viewers are aware, on October 7 by Hamas attack. Now, Israel has felt frustrated that it cannot bring Gaza episode to a successful conclusion. Hamas continues to defy Israeli armed might and keep holding 48 odd hostages. Many of them are already dead. The pressure mounts on Mr. Netanyahu domestically for his inability to have the hostages delivered, and he's looking for scapegoats. And one of the scapegoat action is the attack on Hamas infrastructure in Doha, which has its own reverberations, I should say. This would be the first such attack by Israel openly undertaken since a Hamas activist was killed by suspected Israeli agents in Dubai about a decade ago. But this time it was done publicly and done with the help of a massive air raid involving 12 Israeli aircraft.
Right, right. Ambassador Sajdev, I do want to understand from you what next, especially when Israel at this point of time, in a rare instance, does not have the support of America. What is likely to happen?
I think it's a bit disingenuous of President Trump to pretend that he is hurt by being blindsided. At the same time, he confesses that Israelis had informed him before, and Qataris claim that they were informed by Americans only 10 minutes after the bombs have started falling. So I think it's a bit tenuous for Israel and the United States to go through the motions of having differences on this issue. The important issue here is the U.S. military security arrangements with the Gulf states that President Trump has ensured during his first term and the second term against $1 trillion worth of deals, military equipment, projects, etc., having been signed. Now, these security guarantees mean nothing against Israel, that is.
Right.
So now Qatar is an outlier. There's a message in Qatar, for Qatar in this, that you cannot hunt with hounds while run with hare. They have been trying to play an oversized role by mediating with likes of Muslim Brotherhood, the likes of Hamas and Taliban.
Okay. Yeah, right. I will have to interrupt you, sir. According to the Qatari Prime Minister, the Gulf nation is now reconsidering its role as a mediator in the Gaza ceasefire talks, following an unprecedented Israeli strike on its capital, Doha. The Qatari Prime Minister, Sheikh Mohammed Al Thani, said that Israel targeted Hamas officials inside Qatar, an act he called a betrayal. In fact, he accused Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu of wasting time during weeks of mediation efforts. Al Thani said that Qatar is now reassessing everything about its involvement and is in close talks with America on the next steps. He also said that Netanyahu must be held accountable, calling for him to be brought to justice for what he described as reckless, destabilizing actions. In fact, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi also condemned the Israeli airstrikes in Doha, calling them a violation of Qatar's sovereignty. In a phone call with Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Modi expressed deep concern over the attack and reaffirmed India's support for dialogue, diplomacy and regional peace. Prime Minister Modi also praised Qatar's mediation efforts in Gaza, and both leaders agreed to stay in close contact. A statement from India's Foreign Ministry urged restraint, warning that the situation risks destabilizing the nation. Ambassador Sachdev, in a rare shift of allegiance that India has with Israel, where it has never gone ahead and condemned Israeli actions on Gaza, India has gone out and condemned the Israeli attack on Doha. What do you think has made India change its stance?
Megha, one should correct you. India has not condemned Israeli attack. It has not named Israel in its statement.
But it is an attack by Israel. I don't think there's any ambiguity on who attacked Doha.
The diplomatic nuances need to be stated, and here Prime Minister has been very careful. Ministry of External Affairs have been careful, and I should also add the act balances what Prime Minister's own statement of condemnation of the Jerusalem terrorist attack, killing 6 Israelis day before that event took place. So there is a bit of balancing act here. Secondly, I think instability in the Gulf is very detrimental to India's interests. As you know, we have nearly 90 lakh Indian diaspora in these countries, including 500,000 people in Qatar itself. So any dislocation of normal life in these countries would create a very adverse impact on India.
Right.
Repatriation of people, remittances, trade, and everything else would be affected.
Right.
So
Thank you very much, Ambassador Sachdev, for joining me and sharing your insights. US President Donald Trump also expressed dissatisfaction with Israel's strikes against Qatar. He said that he's not thrilled with the situation during a rare public appearance in Washington.
I don't have to do that. I'm not thrilled about the whole situation. It's not a good situation. But I will say this, we want the hostages back, but we are not thrilled about the way that went down today. We have that one and we have Gaza going on. We want to get them both solved and ended.
Hundreds of South Korean workers remain in American custody after a major immigration raid as the repatriation faces an unexpected delay. A South Korean Foreign Ministry official said that Donald Trump asked whether the skilled workers should stay in America to help train American staff. The question halts the deportation process. Meanwhile, the South Korean president has made a statement that could impact the economic ties between South Korea and United States of America, and a potential trade deal that South Korea has been trying to negotiate with the Trump administration. The president of Korea has said that this detention of the South Korean nationals is going to adversely impact the way South Korean companies and firms invest in the United States of America. Meanwhile, there is a special chartered plane that arrived yesterday in Atlanta in America to repatriate the South Korean immigrants that were detained by the American police in Georgia a few days ago. Dr. Sanjay Kumar is on the telecast with me. Dr. Kumar, how do you view these very stern statements that have been made by the South Korean leader? He said that in the future, South Korean firms, South Korean companies are going to be hesitant in investing in America in wake of this incident that has unraveled itself.
Yes, Megha, the situation here is very perplexed for the Korean companies. But it doesn't mean that bilateral relations are going to be affected deeply. This has been reiterated in his press briefing also. President Lee Jae-myung has clearly said that definitely Korean companies are going to be very hesitant in years to come because they had been planning huge investments there. But at the same time, he has ruled out the possibility of any kind of further deterioration of a bilateral alliance. So that is a very important point to note here. But there are different kinds of concerns here in terms of perceptions about the U.S. Government's action when it comes to handcuffing and all. Although the foreign ministry here in South Korea have voiced very strong opposition to this handcuffing thing, and there were some consultations also on this. Basically, in the Asian cultures, including India, Korea, Japan, and other countries, if you take into consideration this handcuffing thing, it is seen as a very prejudiced form of injustice. Like exposition is generally not done unless someone is proven guilty of a severe crime or some serious arrest has been made. This is publicly seen as a very kind of inhuman and it raises concerns of human rights concerns also. And that photographs were displayed, the videos were displayed across the world, including Korea, and that's why it raised great concerns, and those misperceptions are still mounting, and that is why people have a huge backlash on this. And even politically also, it has become a big issue. Today is 7th day. Luckily today at US time 3 p.m. We had been informed in the media here that all these detainees they constitute 306 Korean males, 10 females, 10 are from Chinese origin, 3 are from Japan, and 1 is Indonesian. So all of them are going to be departed from US, and they will reach Korea, and those foreign nationals they will use South Korea as transit, and they will go back to their home countries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Sanjay, for joining me, sharing your views. Well, on that note, I slip into a short break. Thanks for watching NewsX World.